class, and for today's video we're going to be making a print. We're going to be doing something with printmaking, and you're going to need just a little bit of supplies, nothing too bad. You're going to need like styrofoam plates, or you can use like styrofoam takeout containers, or just anything styrofoam, like bowls. I just picked a plate because they're bigger. They're a little bit bigger than like your styrofoam bowls, but you just need to make sure that it's something styrofoam and that it's clean. So like if you have like a takeout container or something, just make sure that it's clean. Just make sure that there's like a nice flat spot because you want it to be flat. So we're actually going to cut off this part right here. So you're going to need your scissors. Like I said, if you're not comfortable with using a scissors, have an adult help you. But I encourage you to work on using some scissors, and styrofoam isn't too difficult to cut. And if you want, you can first cut it here, and then later on, if you want to have something more shaped to your drawing, you can cut it again after. But for now, I'm just going to cut a nice little, I'm just going to cut this off. Just make sure you have some nice, just be nice and patient with it. And it's not like a perfect circle, but it'll work for what we're trying to do. See, it's nice and flat. And so after you have this, you're going to think, well, what are we going to do with this? We're actually going to use the styrofoam and we're going to draw into it. And so you're going to want a pencil. And my biggest recommendation is that you actually lightly sketch out something that you want, or if you want to just go for it, but don't make sure it's not too detailed. It'll be a lot easier if you stick to a little less detailing. So maybe I just want to draw something like, maybe I'll just do the scissors here. I'll kind of just like slightly, and it's kind of hard to see, but when you press into it, it makes this ridge, which is hard to see, but I'll show you. It'll show up in the other section when I start printing. Or actually, the scissors kind of turn into like maybe a cool little strange dinosaur. So I'm gonna go with that. And if you don't want to have your scissors or your pencil out, you can always go like this and draw it this way. Just using the point of something. Maybe you want a thicker line. You can use like the handle of my brush here. And you just make sure you compact it down like that. And I'll go like this. And then maybe I want some scales. Just make sure you're pressing nice and hard. You can put something in the background. You can cut it out to a shape. Otherwise, you can always just have it. So, as you can see, here you can see this a little better. You can see you want to be a little careful because you are going to press pretty hard, so it is going to be pretty fragile where you've pressed, but press hard enough that you can get these indents in here. And that's why I said detailing it would be kind of hard, because you have a certain thickness of line that you will be stuck with. That's just as thin as you can get it. But like I said, styrofoam's pretty easy to come by, so let's say you don't like what you made. Don't worry about it. You can always start all over again. And if you want, you can always sketch out on like a piece of paper. I'm just going to use some thin paper. Thicker paper would be kind of hard to print with, at least for this much. So I'm just going to use a thinner piece of paper. And for that, you can use acrylic paints, but you're going to have to water them down so they're more ink-like. Otherwise, you can also use like a watercolor, which is what I'm going to be using. And then I already grabbed a glass of water. And we're just gonna put the paint where we want it. So maybe I only want color around like the edges of this so I can really see my lines, and I might feather it out a little bit. Otherwise, you can like put it all over the thing. You just want to make sure that it's still wet while you're using it. So maybe I want a nice green. So I'm going to be mixing a green. And then you can just kind of put it on there. And styrofoam does resist, so you're going to have to work a little bit to get the color. And sometimes it might work a little better if you kind of put the color across. I mean, it's by no means going to be like a perfect applicational coverage, but it's still going to let you see your image. And just gonna keep putting it on. And let's see how this works out. So you can take it, and you're gonna take it, and while it's still wet, you're gonna turn it upside down, and you're gonna put it onto the paper, and you're just gonna press it in. And you're going to take your hands and you're going to rub it around in a nice, with some pressure, not a lot, you don't got to have a ton. And you can go like this, and you just kind of want to rub it in. Especially over where your image is. And then you should just be able to be very carefully. I kind of like keep my hand down here. And then see, it makes a pretty cool effect. And it's not the super most detailed, but I still think it's pretty cool. Otherwise, you can go, if you want to really amp this up, you can strategically color it. So maybe I really like that effect. So maybe I'll put some green here. And then if I hurry, I can put maybe some red. Nice, like a purpley red. And I can kind of get that gradient mix. And then you can switch to a new piece of paper, but for me, I think I'm just going to keep it on the same sheet of paper so you guys can see some of the differences a little bit. Between using two colors. And then remember, like I said, to just kind of carefully press. And you just kind of go. And obviously you'd probably let this dry a little bit, but I'm making sure that I don't press into where there is still the wet. So you can do like that. And now I'll actually show you guys how you can like make one that's more like shape. So like, let's say you really like hearts. You can always cut it into a heart shape. So I'm gonna first cut the plate again, and then you can make your decorations based on it being shaped. You can also, if you want to work in sections and you want to work a little slower, you can cut them into pieces and then put them together kind of like a jigsaw puzzle at the end. That works pretty nicely. So let's say I want a heart. So I'm going to first kind of draw this way. because a heart has that nice V shape. So I'm gonna actually go to make the V shape first. So you just kind of cut with a straight line. And we can kind of curve it a little bit. You can also draw it out and then press the lot down harder to get it to come out. That's also works pretty well. But I can also show you that. Because maybe I'll make it like this, something out of this. So there we have a heart. And I'll go with my pencil. And I'll take a diamond out of the center. I'm gonna press really hard. And I'm actually gonna go over it twice. And just be kind of careful when you're doing this part, because you can kind of break it out where you don't want to. Just taking multiple strips can be really helpful. And you can kind of break it out like this. And then you can kind of use your hands to kind of smooth it down a little bit and break off the little pieces that didn't come out. Okay. So you can put like shapes inside of them. I mean, you can also use like a scissors, but that gets a little harder when they're finer details. And let's put some design on this. Maybe I'll do like little lines like this. And then you can like color them. So we'll stick with the purple because I think that's a pretty nice purpley heart colory, pinkish purple red. And we'll go like this and add our color. And this time I'm going to try and get color everywhere because it is a shaped one. So I want my color to be all around so I can get that shape a little more clear and crisp. Don't forget to make sure you have plenty of water to spread this across. Ooh. And I'll grab another sheet of paper because this one's getting kind of full with our prints. So I'll quickly move this. I'll grab another sheet of paper. And then I'll switch to this. And I'll turn it upside down. And rub it. And this time, since it's all of it, you're going to want to make sure that you get it rubbed in really well all over it. And then put your finger here and here on like the corner here, and you can kind of slowly peel it up. So you have like a cool heart shape printed out. And for this, you can also like, let's say you want to make like a pattern and stuff, so you can make like your shape and then you can keep printing it. So I can kind of show you that too with this heart. That I'll just reapply the pink, purple, kind of magenta. And if you want to make a pattern, you can just keep repeating the process over and over to make your pattern. And maybe you want the pattern to run off the page, so maybe I might ink up just parts of the heart. So maybe I want like just like this much of it showing. So I'll kind of estimate that and put color only on the portion that I want to print. we'll go like this. See? And then maybe I want it like here, so I'll do that. Just this top little part. Just like that. And so you can start to get like a pattern. This is really useful if you want to like make patterns, or like you want to have like a background that you want to draw on top of, because I can always come in and like make a sketch over top of these, which is really nice. And since it's not too heavily watered down, it doesn't really warp your regular computer paper. You can see it's not really warping it like most watercolors would if you put too much watercolor on top of it. And honestly, your options are pretty limitless when making stuff with styrofoam, as long as you get like a big enough piece and you think in more like generic shapes and not quite as detailed. And you can make anything that you can set your mind to. For recap, you just need styrofoam, watercolor, or acrylic paints, and then you just need some nice computer paper. You can use other papers. This just works a little nice because it's easy to come by. And that's all for this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed last week's video and kind of put some of that color theory stuff to this week's video when you're making your prints. And I'll see you guys next week.